What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Timeless Steel. Jimmy here. Hey, first off, thanks for all the support from that last video. It blew me away. That thing is still climbing, and I've picked up a whole bunch of subscribers from it. Which, quick self-shameless plug, if you're not subscribed, please do. Like the videos, like the channel, hit that little alert bell on the side, and feel free to share any of my stuff on your social media platforms. I'm all about it. Keep commenting, keep being interactive. I like it. This video is basically an update video of the Ecoboost, and I'm getting down to the kind of not glamorous stuff to finish the build. But for those of you who are needing to be caught up, so car runs, starts great, intercooler system's plumbed now, blow-off valve system's plumbed, exhaust is done, just intercooler's mounted. This intercooler bracket was not my best work. I'll probably redo that, but for now it's good enough until the car's done, and I'll come back and make stuff pretty once it's on the road. This is the list. It used to be almost this whole fridge. It's getting pretty small now, so I'll go through it with you guys. Once over, positive and negative, that's just to double check my wiring. I want to go through all the wiring, all the positive and negative battery cables, anything that could melt the car, and just check tightness, check connections, all that kind of stuff. Inertia switch is in case I wreck this thing. Just wiring a factory DeLorean inertia switch back in. Brake system, I just did the one-off rear caliper mounts to mount these Willwoods to my already one-off brake setup in the back here, and I sent those brackets off to J. Murley Machine up in New York, who's my uncle, and he's an awesome machinist. And he's gonna make them look pretty and tap them for me. So when I get those back, my rear brakes should just bolt up. And really the only thing left to do here, the eye booster from the Tesla up front, the electrical side of that booster, the ECU needs to be wired. And the rear brake lines of the car, which get a little bit complicated because I added this Sicky drift brake. Now, this drift brake is a pass-through master cylinder style drift brake, not an independent master drift brake. So there's two ways to plumb a drift system. You can have an extra caliper on each rear disc that's just plumbed to a drift brake with its own master and is completely separate of the car's brake system. Or you can do what I did and run a pass-through setup. So when you push the brake pedal in this car, all the fluid that's going to the rear brakes will travel through this master cylinder, hence the term pass-through, and function normally. And then when I apply any brake to use this as a parking brake or to slide into a parking lot or something, then it cuts off the fluid from the front of the car and just locks up the rear tires. The problem is the DeLorean brake lines are a British style, I forget what they call them, double flare. I'll show you right here. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of like a bulbous bubble tip on that thing. And that is a very British 80s European kind of thing. Whereas all of the modern brake stuff I have in the car, to include these Sicky brake lines here, are AN style brake lines, which is what I'm running in the front. So haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do there. I might just convert to soft lines on the whole rear side of the car. I might run some adapters. Basically, I need to intercept the brake line at the rear junction block for you stock DeLorean people. Bring the brake fluid up into the car, which I'm going to go through the stock holes for the e-brake cables. Provide fluid to that master, and then run a cable back out of that master, back to that same area, and then split it one to each rear tire. Really not that hard. I just got to sit down and think about it, so that shouldn't take me too long. And then the only fabrication I have left is this throttle pedal mount, which I'll show you in a minute. Intercooler fan, oil cooler fan. So I have my oil cooler way down here. Let me turn some lights on for you. You can see it right there. That's my oil cooler. You can see the fan. There it is. That fan and this intercooler fan I have to wire Now the way my oil system works is oil comes out of the block, hits this adapter block with a spin-on filter. I'm running a stock Focus ST filter, and basically it bypasses, I believe it's 185. It just goes right back to the block. It's got a wax-filled bellows in here. Once that gets up to temp, it then goes to the oil cooler. On the way out of the oil cooler, I have a 190-degree temp switch that once the oil coming out of the cooler hits 190 degrees, it turns the oil cooler fan on. The intercooler fan, really the time that this is most important, and I put a puller fan on here to kind of promote getting air out of this hot engine compartment. Which anytime you have a fan or a radiator or something that is in a tight area, a puller fan usually is the way to go. And this is most beneficial, believe it or not, at like idle and during heat soak periods. So I haven't quite ironed out how I'm going to wire this yet, if I'm going to run it to a temperature switch or if I'm going to have a manual switch, or I'm just going to wire it to the 12 volt that powers the ECU so it comes on all the time. I do want to be able to turn it off, so I'm still working on that. AEM Dash, it's in the car. I've already started working on the programming in the computer. I've just got to wire it. That's 4 wires, that's easy. PCV system, I maintain the stock PCV system on the intake side of the car, and instead of having the air recirc into the intake tube, I'm going to actually vent to a crankcase breather. Air intake block off plate, so I have a stainless plate that's going to block this hole here, and I think I'm going to have the intake air to the turbo actually mount inside here with this cone filter. Sit inside here like that, and then I'm going to put a little air scoop here to kind of promote some air, some cooler air coming into the car, which that's pretty common. I think most of the LS guys are doing that too. Heater solenoid, I ditched the stock DeLorean heater solenoid. I went to an electric actuated valve that's going to have an on-off switch in the cab. Right now it's just sitting here with some zip ties. I want to make an actual bracket to mount it to the firewall. Final wire radiator fans, I've got some nasty crimp connections on there right now just to test the fans. And then adjust suspension. The entire suspension on the chassis is basically loose, it's not torqued. So once I get through this list, I will drive this car under its own power over to that lift it up in the air, torque the suspension, and then I'm on to final assembly and test drive. So it sounds like a lot, but a lot of this is just little stuff. Today's goal is, here's my carbon fiber AEM CDX5, I believe it's called. I didn't want to go through the time of making all these horribly inaccurate gauges work for the new ECU. So I just went with a complete standalone dash. This thing's pretty trick. For now, I went with a ram mount suspended from the windshield. I will probably in the future actually make a recessed panel that goes, I don't know. I kind of like this for just the time machine look, keeping the stock gauges. And I like having a little display there with what my modern ECU is doing. And it's not permanent. I can pluck this thing off the windshield and unplug it. It's good to go. The beauty of this system is AIM makes this for any ECU you can think of. It's pretty much plug and play. You got a black, for what I'm doing, which is an SCS Delta, it's a ground and a power, and it is a CAN positive and a CAN negative, which I already have isolated from when I pre-wired this car the first time. Where are we at here? Here we go. There is my CAN negative and CAN positive coming off my SCS Delta ECU. So my goal today is to pull the time machine deck out of the rear of the car, pull all this stuff out, mount my intercooler mounts. Right now it's just sitting there. I'm going to take these side panels out, which are pretty thrashed in my car, but I have some good ones. And a buddy of mine is building a car. I'm going to give these to him, and he's going to use them on his car, or thinks he can use some parts from them. So he's been bugging me for them. I got to get him out of the car so he can have those. And then I'd like to get this dash wired today so that when I start the car, excuse me, when when I start the car, I don't have to have a computer plugged in to see what's going on. So, enough rambling. I'm gonna get to work and I'll bring you along for the ride. Well, there you have it. Time machine debris all over the shop. Speaker panels on top of the Riviera. And we got the car dismantled to a level that I can work on it now. Some other crap that I'm not putting back in the car. Well, here you can see how well made DeLoreans are. We got a super solid structure here of fiberglass. Speakers hidden behind those panels and duct tape and wood screws. And you can see I got a lot of cleanup in here to do. Can't be driving around with duct tape. So all that over there is the engine wiring, and it is pretty solid. It's all standalone, independent of the car's horrible electrical system. I got the speaker panels out. Those are going to my buddy Kyle. Hope he can get something out of them. The driver's side is pretty thrashed. You know, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, do I want to keep this a time machine? My buddies are sick of hearing it because I go back and forth like I'm hormonal. But I don't know. I don't know if I want to keep this like kind of a time machine with some stuff. And I don't know if I want to keep the back panel or if I just keep the whole interior. I know people at car shows dig it, kids love it, my daughter likes it. But man, sometimes I get sick of it. So let me know. You guys think the Ecoboost DeLorean should stay time machine interior or ditch it? Comment down there. Comment. All right, well that went pretty quick. So next I'm gonna wire up the dash. See if we can have some vitals going here by the end of the day. Yo, yo, yo. Yo, yo, check one, check two, check, check. Pretty exciting here. So I've got the dash mock wired. Super simple. I kind of ran it like time machine wiring, so I guess I answered my own question because I like my time machine. I don't really need any of this except for 4 wires. I do want to add, you can basically add a trigger that turns the gauge into night mode. I'll definitely do that because I'm blind at night. But I basically just loosely mock this up to make sure that I'm getting good CAN signals. So you can see I've got the CAN wires, the ECU just kind of mocked up, and I've got some power mocked up here so I can turn it on manually without the car running. Just to give you an idea, like these dashes aren't cheap. I think, I couldn't tell you, it was $1,200 or $1,500, something like that. I don't know. It was not a cheap dash. But when you think about the fact that you're getting a complete gauge dash setup, like there's no, they're waterproof, they're made out of carbon fiber, they're light. When you start pricing out individual gauges, that's really not that bad. But what's really impressive is the support from AEM. SCS Delta is kind of not really a common ECU over here in the States. They had a file for it. Not only did they have a file for it, they had instructions for it. Not only did they have instructions for it, it was all open source on their website. I had issues downloading the file, so I emailed them. They emailed me back within a day just to tell me that my software already had that file loaded on it. The files are in the computer. Jimmy don't computer. So anyway, I'm super stoked. And I mean, simple install. I suction cupped it to my windshield. Now if you're building a factory 5 Roadster or a race car that's going to be outside that could get rained on, doesn't matter. Waterproof. Built-in shift lights. The dash actually stores your files, so you can download your files from the dash itself if you're at the track. Like, it's got its own GPS antenna for speedometer and everything, so no more stupid angle drive DeLorean owners. So here we go. Here's the cool part. Now, what's awesome about this dash is it's completely customizable, and I've only just begun messing with it, but this is pretty cool. Check this out. My business logo. Boom. So here we go. We're going to start the car. cold warm-up mode here, so she's idling high. I haven't messed with any of the rates of measure or anything, so this is a British ECU, so it's got a lot of bar on here, Celsius, stuff like that. But this is a pre-configured 7-page layout from AEM, from SCS Delta. This whole setup and install took me probably about 45 minutes, and I was listening to rock and taking my time. Now, you can change all of these layouts. I don't like that I can't see oil pressure on here. The computer's telling me I've got solid oil pressure, but I want to be able to see that all on here, so I'll change that. But, I mean, how cool is that? Lap times, all that stuff's built in. And oh, by the way, running time on the motor keeps track of that. Yeah, the motor's warming up. Pretty legit. Too legit to quit. Hey, hey. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Jimmy, Timeless Steel.